Aaron lived a quiet life on the farming world of Ballora. The planet was green and wide, with rolling hills and fields that stretched under twin suns. Most people there lived simply, growing food, tending animals, and trading in small villages. Aaron was no different. He worked the land his family had left him, a small piece of soil at the edge of the settlement. Though life was plain, it gave him peace. He liked the rhythm of the days, the rising suns, the slow evenings, and the silence of the night skies. But peace rarely lasted forever. On one calm night, as the stars shone bright, Aaron sat outside near his barn. The wind was cool, and the fields whispered under the touch of the breeze. He leaned back in his chair, looking up at the wide sky. Suddenly, he saw a streak of light slash across the darkness. At first, he thought it was just a falling star, a common sight that farmers often made wishes on. But this light was different. It did not fade. Instead, it grew brighter, roaring through the atmosphere with a long tail of fire. Aaron stood quickly. His heart raced as he watched the burning light curve down toward the hills behind his farm. There was a distant sound of thunder, and then the ground shook with a low rumble. Dust rose far away where the light had vanished. Something had crashed. For a moment, Aaron considered running to the village to call others. But his curiosity was stronger. He grabbed a lantern, pulled on his boots, and hurried across the fields. The night was silent again except for his steps crunching the soil. As he climbed over the ridge, he saw smoke curling into the air. The smell of burned metal reached his nose, sharp and bitter. When he came closer, his lantern revealed a strange sight. A small craft lay half buried in the dirt, its surface glowing faintly red from the heat. It was unlike any ship he had seen. Traders came and went from Ballora sometimes, but their ships were large, clunky, and built for cargo. This craft was small, sleek, almost like a silver seed cracked open by the fall. Sparks flickered from broken panels and steam hissed into the air. Aaron approached with caution. He had heard tales of smugglers and pirates, of travelers carrying dangerous cargo, but when he placed his hand against the hull, he felt not danger but weakness. Something inside was alive, and it was struggling. With effort, he pulled at the hatch. At first it refused to open, but with one last tug it cracked apart. Inside in the dim glow he saw a figure. It was not human. Curled in the seat was a small alien girl. Her skin was pale with a faint shimmer, like starlight resting on water. Her hair, long and soft, glowed faintly blue as if holding its own light. She wore a thin robe of silver fabric torn at the edges. On her head rested a delicate crown that pulsed softly, alive with strange energy. Her eyes opened slowly, large and luminous, glowing with a deep violet hue. Aaron froze, unsure if he should step back or help. The girl looked at him, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. Her lips moved and a soft voice escaped. "Help me." The words were accented but clear. Aaron's heart softened. Whoever she was not a pirate or smuggler. She was lost, weak, and alone. He leaned closer, lifting her carefully from the seat. She was lighter than he expected, as if her body carried less weight than a human. The crown flickered when he touched her, but it did not resist. She clung weakly to his shirt, her eyes closing again. Carrying her back across the fields was not easy, but Aaron was strong from years of farm work. When he reached his home, he laid her gently on his bed and covered her with a blanket. The glow of her crown dimmed until it was only a faint shimmer. He sat beside her, uncertain of what to do next. For hours, the girl slept. Aaron stayed awake, watching over her. He thought about the ships he had seen in orbit during past years, the rumors of distant wars, the whispers of alien empires that stretched farther than humans could imagine. Who was this girl, and why had her craft fallen near his farm? Just before dawn, she stirred. Her violet eyes opened again, and she looked around with confusion. When she saw Aaron, she relaxed slightly. "You saved me," she whispered. Aaron nodded slowly. "You fell from the sky. Your craft is broken. Who are you?" She sat up weakly, holding the blanket close. For a moment she did not answer, as if deciding whether to trust him. Then she spoke with quiet strength. "I am Princess Mira of the Ballora. I fled because they seek me. Please do not give me away." Aaron blinked in shock. A princess. He had never imagined meeting royalty, much less an alien one. Her words carried weight, but also fear. "Whoever hunted her must be powerful," he asked gently. "Why are they after you?" Mira lowered her eyes. "Because I wish for peace. Others do not. They see humans as weak, as a people to conquer. I refused their path, and now they want me gone. The room grew silent. Aaron felt the air grow heavy. A princess running from her own people, carrying only a crown and hope. He had no reason to believe her, yet her eyes spoke truth. Outside, the suns began to rise. Light poured through the window, casting warm gold over the room. Aaron stood and looked out toward the horizon. He saw nothing yet, only the quiet fields. But deep inside, he knew the peace of Ballora was broken. The fall of the little ship was only the beginning. When he turned back, Mira had closed her eyes again, resting. Her crown glowed faintly as if listening. Aaron sat back down. He did not know what tomorrow would bring. But he knew one thing clearly. He could not hand her over to whoever hunted her. He had found her, and now she was under his care. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the hills and beyond the stars, others were already searching. The next morning came with the sound of birds in the trees and the glow of the twin suns rising above the fields. Aaron stepped outside, but his mind was far from his usual farm work. He kept thinking of the alien princess resting inside his home. Her soft words from the night before echoed in his mind. I am Princess Mira of the Ballora. Please do not give me away. Aaron felt the weight of her trust. He was only a farmer. He had no soldiers, no weapons, no way to fight great fleets. Yet for some reason, fate had brought her to him. He could not ignore that. When he returned inside, Mira was awake. She sat at the table, her silver robe still torn, her crown glowing faintly. She looked at him with tired but steady eyes. I will not stay here long, she said softly. If I remain, those who chase me will bring danger to your people. They will come to this world soon. Aaron frowned. Then we should hide you. The village is small. Maybe they will not search too deep. She shook her head. They will search everywhere. They will not stop until they find me. You must understand. They are not simple raiders. They are the fleet of my own empire. Before Aaron could answer, the ground trembled. A low sound rolled across the fields. He rushed to the window. High above, breaking through the clouds, he saw massive shadows. Great warships hung in the sky, dark and sharp like blades. Their engines burned with fire, and their presence made the air heavy. The Ballora had arrived. Within hours, soldiers landed in small crafts, spreading across villages. They marched in straight lines, their armor shining with blue light. Their tall forms moved with strict order, their weapons glowing with energy. People stepped aside in fear. The guard spoke little, only demanding answers about a missing royal vessel. From his farm, Aaron saw them moving closer. Mira stood behind him, her small hands clutching the blanket she wore over her robe. They will sense me if they come too near, she whispered. Aaron's chest tightened. Then we cannot stay. I know a way. My uncle left me an old cargo ship. It has not flown in years, but it might still work. It is hidden in the hills. Mira looked at him with hope. If it can fly, it may carry us beyond their reach. Aaron nodded firmly. He quickly packed supplies, water, food, a small tool set. Mira kept her crown hidden under the blanket, though its faint light still slipped through. Together they slipped out the back door, moving quietly through the tall grass toward the hills. Behind them, the guards marched into the village. People bowed low, afraid to even speak. The soldiers demanded answers, but none dared resist. Yet something strange happened when the guards came near Aaron's farm. They halted, their steps slowing. Their eyes turned toward the house, but then they froze. It was as if an invisible weight pressed on them. Some lowered their heads, uncertain. For a moment, even their training broke. Then their leader gave a sharp order and they moved on, leaving the house untouched. Aaron and Mira reached the hills just before noon. Hidden in a wide cave, half covered in dust, rested the old cargo ship. Its hull was scarred and its wings were rusty, but it still had the heart of a vessel meant for the stars. Aaron had once promised himself to repair it someday, though he never thought that day would come so suddenly. He led Mira inside. The control panels were old, the screens dark, but the core systems hummed faintly when he touched them. With quick hands, he began to reconnect wires, checking fuel cells and aligning the engine. Mira watched in silence, her eyes full of quiet strength. At last, the ship groaned to life. Lights flickered on, the engines coughed, and the air filled with the smell of burning fuel. Aaron smiled. It will fly. Maybe not well, but enough. They strapped in, and with a deep breath, Aaron pulled the lever. The ship shuddered, then rose slowly from the cave floor. Dust rained down from the ceiling as the engines roared. With a burst of power, the vessel shot out into the open sky. But the Ballora saw them. The station's gates closed behind the old cargo ship with a heavy echo that shook the walls. Aaron let out a breath he had been holding. For a moment, silence filled the cabin. Then the hum of the station's systems wrapped around them like a shield. They were safe, at least for now. Mira leaned back in her seat, her small hands resting on the armrests. Her crown dimmed until only a faint violet shimmer remained. She looked tired, yet her eyes still carried that same quiet fire Aaron had seen since the crash. "Thank you," she whispered. Aaron gave her a small nod. "We made it, but I think they will not stop. The Valora will come again." Mira did not argue. She knew it was true. Soon a group of human officers boarded the ship. They wore simple uniforms, not as polished as the shining armor of the Valora guards, but their steps carried firm strength. Their leader, Commander Hale, stood tall with steady eyes. He looked at Aaron first, then at Mira. His gaze lingered on the crown glowing faintly above her head. "You claim to be a princess of the Valora," he said. "If that is true, then why are there warships chasing you across the stars?" Mira stood slowly. Her robe fell around her like flowing silver, and the crown pulsed softly as if answering her heart. She raised her chin and spoke with calm dignity. "I am Mira, heir to the Valora throne. But I was born different. I believe there is another path for my people, a path without conquest. Many do not accept this. They wish for war against humanity, to prove their strength by crushing what they call a fragile race. I refused them. I spoke for peace. For that I was hunted. They would rather see me gone than let me stand in their way." Her words carried across the chamber. The officers exchanged uncertain glances. Hale crossed his arms. "And why should humans risk themselves for you? If what you say is true, then your own people are divided. Bringing you here might make us a target." Mira's violet eyes glowed brighter. She stepped closer, her voice steady. "Because humanity is not fragile. I have seen it. I felt it the moment I fell from the sky and was found by a farmer who could have handed me over, but chose instead to risk his life. That is strength my people do not understand. That is why they fear me, and why they fear you." Aaron shifted uncomfortably at her words, but deep inside he felt something stir. He had never thought of himself as anything more than a farmer. Yet Mira spoke as if his small choice carried the weight of whole worlds. The commander studied her, then sighed. "Very well. For now you may stay under our watch. But you must understand, Princess, we cannot fight a whole empire on your behalf. If war comes, the decision will not rest with me." Mira bowed her head slightly. "I ask for no army. Only the chance to be heard." The officers left to report, and Aaron and Mira were guided to a small chamber within the station. It was simple, with a bed, a table, and a window that opened to the endless stars. For the first time since her crash, Mira had a chance to rest without fear of soldiers breaking through the door. As the hours passed, Aaron sat with her, listening as she told him more of her past. "I was not meant to be like this," she began softly. "Most of my people are trained from birth to follow the ways of conquest. Strength, order, obedience. But I always felt different. My teachers said my heart was too soft. They said I listened too much, questioned too much. When I grew older, I saw your people from afar. I saw the way you live, not only through power, but through trust, through choice. My people see that as weakness, but I saw it as something greater." She touched the crown on her head. "This crown is more than a symbol. It is a relic of our oldest line. It carries the memories of those who wore it before me. Their thoughts guide me, their strength supports me, but even they cannot give me peace. That is something I must create myself." Aaron listened quietly. Her words felt heavy with meaning, though spoken in simple tones. He thought of his farm, his quiet fields, his days of peace. He thought of how small his life had seemed compared to the stars. Yet here was a princess carrying the weight of an empire, trusting him with her truth. "Do you think humans can really stand against the Valora?" he asked. Mira looked out the window at the sea of stars. "Not with weapons alone. My people are stronger in battle. But strength is not only in battle. It is in standing for what is right, even when the cost is high. It is in refusing to give in even when the enemy is greater. That is why I believe in you. That is why I fled here." Before Aaron could answer, alarms rang through the station. The lights turned red and a voice echoed through the walls. "Enemy ships detected. Valora fleet approaching." Aaron and Mira rushed to the window. Outside, beyond the ring of steel, new shadows entered the system. Larger than before, a formation of Valora warships advanced toward the station. Their engines burned bright, their weapons ready. The humans moved quickly. Patrol ships launched, defense cannons charged. Commander Hale's voice filled the comms. All units prepare. They will demand surrender. Hold position. Aaron turned to Mira. She stood tall, her crown glowing once more. Fear touched her eyes, but determination was stronger. They are here for me, she said. They will not stop until I am theirs. If you give me to them, perhaps they will leave. Aaron shook his head firmly. No, I will not let them take you. Not after everything. The station trembled as a message came from the Valora flagship. A voice, cold and commanding, filled the chamber. This is Commander Serac of the Valora fleet. You shelter one who does not belong to you. Hand over the traitor princess and we will depart. Refuse and you will face destruction. The human officers looked tense. Many whispered that surrender might save them. But Mira stepped forward, her voice ringing out clear and sharp. I am Mira of Valora. I am no traitor. I am the true heir who chooses peace. If you wish to silence me, you must strike not only me but those who stand with me. And if you do, you prove yourselves cowards before the stars. Her words carried across the station, echoing in every speaker. The humans who heard them felt something rise within their hearts. She was not only speaking to the Valora, she was speaking to them as well. Aaron stood beside her, his hand resting firmly on the table. He was no soldier, but his presence said what words could not. He would not move aside. The silence after her speech was heavy. Even the Valora guards outside the station hesitated in their ranks, shifting uneasily as if unsure. Commander Hale looked at Mira and then at Aaron. His voice grew steady. We will not hand her over. Not today, not ever. If they want her, they will have to face us all. The station roared to life as weapons locked on. The Valora fleet prepared their own. The battle was about to begin. And in that moment, as the stars held their breath, Aaron realized the truth. Mira was not only a princess seeking refuge. She was a light strong enough to shake even the most loyal guards. Her strength was not in armies or weapons, but in the courage to speak and in the hope she gave to others. For the first time, Aaron felt what Mira had spoken of. Humanity was not fragile. It was unbreakable. The station shook with the tension of waiting. Lights flashed red across the corridors and soldiers rushed to their posts. Outside the thick windows, the Valora fleet loomed larger, their ships lined like sharp blades in the night sky. The humans inside the station knew their enemy was stronger, yet no one stepped back. Aaron stood in the command chamber beside Princess Mira. Her crown glowed with a steady violet light, casting a soft shine across her silver robe. The glow seemed to give courage to those around her. Even the seasoned officers who had faced many threats before found their nerves steadied by her presence. Commander Hale gave quick orders. Shields up. Cannons ready. Patrol wings hold formation. No one fires until I give the word. The voice of the Valora commander returned through the comms. This is your last chance. Hand over the princess. You are outnumbered. Your resistance will be crushed. Mira stepped forward, her voice calm yet sharp. I will not return to you. I choose peace and I will not be silenced. If you wish to fight, then know this. Every strike you make here proves your fear of a single voice. Her words spread across every channel. The human soldiers who heard them gripped their controls tighter, their resolve hardening. Even on the Valora ships, some of the guards shifted uneasily, their loyalty shaken by her strength. Aaron looked at Mira and felt a strange pride. She was small, delicate and soft-spoken, yet she stood taller than the fleet that hunted her. The silence broke with a roar of engines. Valora fighters launched in waves, streaking across the darkness. Their weapons lit up, bright lines of fire aimed straight at the station. Shields holding, one officer called. The station shook as the blast struck, but the barrier held firm for now. Return fire, Hale ordered. The station's cannons thundered, sending bolts of light across the void. Human patrol ships darted out, weaving between the enemy fighters. Explosions flared as the first Valora ships fell. But for everyone destroyed, more pressed forward. Inside the command chamber, tension thickened. The humans fought bravely, yet the Valora's strength was greater. Their warships advanced, their firepower pounding against the station's shields. Cracks began to spread across the glowing barrier. Aaron clenched his fists. He wished he could do more than stand and watch. His farm tools had never prepared him for war, but his heart burned with the will to act. Mira turned to him suddenly. Your people fight with courage, but the Valora still press forward. They will not stop until we break their spirit. To do that, we must strike where they least expect. Aaron frowned. What do you mean? She touched her crown, the violet light brightening. The crown is not only a symbol. It is a channel. It can reach the hearts of my people, even across the distance of ships. But I need a voice beside mine. A human voice, strong and true. Aaron hesitated. I am not a leader. I'm only a farmer. Mira shook her head firmly. You are more. You chose to save me when you could have walked away. That choice carries more weight than titles or thrones. Stand with me, and together we may turn this battle. Aaron's chest tightened, but he nodded. Tell me what to do. She stepped to the comms console and placed her crown against it. The light spread through the system, glowing across every channel. Her voice carried beyond the station, reaching both human and Valora ships alike. I am Princess Mira of the Valora, she declared. I seek not conquest, but peace. My people call humans weak, yet it is they who stand firm today while my own strike in fear. Look upon them. Look upon their courage. Even without great fleets they hold against you. Ask yourselves, who truly holds the greater strength? Then she looked at Aaron, giving him a silent nod. Aaron stepped forward, his voice rough but steady. I am Aaron, a farmer of Ballora. I have no army, no throne, no weapon but my will. Yet when this princess fell to my world, I chose to protect her. That is what it means to be human. We do not stand because we are strongest. We stand because it is right. And we will not bow to threats. His words rang out across the stars, carried by Mira's crown. Silence followed, but it was not empty. It was heavy, as if the whole fleet paused to listen. Then something strange happened. On one of the Valora ships, a formation of guards stopped their advance. Their weapons lowered, their ships drifting uncertainly. Another group did the same. They had heard Mira's voice, and they had heard Aaron's. Doubt now lived in their hearts. The Valora commander shouted across the comms, his voice sharp with anger. Do not falter. She is a traitor, and the human is nothing. Obey your orders, but not all obeyed. The hesitation spread like cracks in glass. Some ships still attacked, but others held back, unwilling to strike. Commander Hale saw the shift. He gave the order. Press the attack. Push them back while their will is broken. The human patrols surged forward, striking with renewed force. Valora fighters scattered, some retreating, some fighting half-heartedly. The great warships wavered under the combined fire of the station and the patrols. The battle turned. Aaron felt the change like a weight lifting. He saw with his own eyes how words could break armies where weapons could not. Mira's belief was true. Humanity's strength was not in firepower, but in spirit, and that spirit was stronger than even the proudest Valora. Still, the fight was not yet done. The Valora commander's flagship advanced, larger than the rest, its weapons charging for a final strike. The energy glowed brighter and brighter, ready to pierce the station's core. Mira's crown flared with light. She closed her eyes, her voice rising like a song. Enough. This war ends not with fire, but with truth. The light spread across space, reaching even the flagship. The guards aboard felt it, their hearts shaking. Many dropped their weapons, their loyalty breaking. Even the flagship's cannon flickered, its charge faltering. Aaron stood beside her, his hand resting on the console. Together they stood not as farmer and princess, but as voices united. The flagship trembled, then slowly turned away. The commander's voice returned, filled with rage but also weakness. This is not the end. You cannot change what is bound by blood. But his words carried no power. His fleet, once so proud, began to retreat. Ship by ship they vanished into the stars, leaving only silence behind. Inside the station, cheers erupted. The humans had held against an empire and forced it to turn back. Soldiers clasped hands, officers embraced, and even hardened veterans let out cries of victory. Mira's crown dimmed again, its light fading until only a soft glow remained. She swayed, tired from the effort, but Aaron caught her gently. She looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. You see now, she whispered. It is not strength of arms that wins the day. It is the courage to stand even when all seems lost. Aaron nodded. He had seen it with his own eyes. He had felt it in his own voice. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was unbreakable. The guards who once stood still in fear now stood still in respect. And in that moment, the bond between a simple farmer and a little alien princess shone brighter than any crown or fleet. The battle was over, yet the station still trembled with the echoes of victory. Alarms had gone silent and the red lights faded back to calm white. Human soldiers walked the halls with tired smiles, their armor scorched but their hearts stronger than ever. They had faced the great Valora fleet and forced it to retreat. Against all odds, humanity had stood unbroken. Aaron remained in the command chamber with Princess Mira. She was pale from the effort of using her crown, yet her eyes still shone with quiet strength. Aaron watched her closely, worried that she might fall from exhaustion. Commander Hale approached and bowed slightly, though his voice held firm respect rather than ceremony. "Princess, the fleet has withdrawn. The station is safe. Humanity owes you much for what you have done today." Mira shook her head. "It was not I who turned the tide. It was your people. Their courage lit the path. My crown only carried the truth of what was already within their hearts." Hale looked at Aaron then. "And you, farmer, your voice carried further than cannons. Remember that when you return to your world. You may think yourself small, but today you stood as a giant." Aaron felt his face warm. He was not used to such words. He was just a man who once worked the soil, planting seeds and tending crops. Yet he could not deny that in this moment, something inside him had changed. He no longer felt small. News of the victory spread quickly through human colonies. On distant outposts, miners raised their tools in salute. On farming worlds, families cheered as they heard that the Valora had turned back. Humanity, often seen as weak by the larger powers of the galaxy, now stood taller in the eyes of many. But the story did not end with retreat. Within the Valora fleet itself, the seeds of change had begun to grow. Many guards who had once marched under fear now questioned their loyalty. They had seen the strength of a princess who stood for peace and a human who spoke of courage. Doubt had entered their hearts, and doubt was the first crack in any chain. Mira sensed this. She spoke to Aaron quietly as they walked through the station corridors. "The battle is won, but the war is not ended. The Valora ruler will not give up so easily. He will tighten his grip, yet the hearts of his people will grow restless. In time, they will seek a new path," Aaron frowned. "And you believe you can guide them to it?" "I must try," Mira answered. "It is my duty, not as a ruler of conquest, but as a voice of change. But I cannot do it alone. I will need allies. I will need humanity." Aaron thought of his farm, of the fields waiting for harvest. He thought of the quiet life he once knew. Yet when he looked at Mira, he understood that his life had shifted forever. He had seen too much to return unchanged. That night, as the station rested, Mira and Aaron stood together by the wide viewing window. Stars stretched endless before them, glittering like rivers of light. The silence between them was not heavy, but peaceful. Mira spoke softly. "When I first fell to your world, I feared it was the end. But instead it was a beginning. You gave me shelter when I had nothing. You gave me trust when all others hunted me. That gift cannot be repaid." Aaron shook his head. "You do not need to repay me. I only did what I felt was right." She smiled, the glow of the stars reflecting in her eyes. "That is what makes it rare. Power seeks what benefits itself, but kindness seeks nothing. That is why humanity is stronger than you know." Their moment was interrupted by the arrival of Hale, who carried new reports. "Princess, we have intercepted transmissions from the retreating fleet. Many Valora ships are refusing to follow the commander's orders. Some are turning away from the capital. There is unrest already." Mira's face grew thoughtful. "It begins sooner than I hoped. Their hearts are stirring. This may be the chance to bring peace not with blades but with voices," Aaron asked. "What happens now?" She turned to him, her silver robe flowing lightly as she moved. "Now we must show the galaxy that a farmer and a princess can stand together. That humanity and Valora can walk the same path. If we do this, the chains of fear will break." The days that followed were filled with planning. Messages were sent from the station across human colonies, and even into hidden Valora channels. Mira spoke of peace, of courage, of unity. Aaron spoke beside her, reminding all who listened that greatness did not belong only to empires, but also to those who chose what was right. At first, the messages were met with silence, but slowly responses began to come. A Valora Guard captain swore to lay down arms. A group of miners from a border world offered their support. Even a few Valora scholars sent words of agreement, saying that the time for endless war was over. Each new voice added to the growing chorus. And as the chorus grew, so did the hope that something new was being born. Yet not all welcomed this change. The Valora ruler, enraged by his failing grip, vowed to crush the rising wave of peace. He sent threats across the stars, warning that any who stood with the princess would face destruction. But his words rang hollow compared to the memory of his retreat. His threats no longer struck fear as they once had. Too many had seen his weakness. Too many had heard Mira and Aaron speak. One evening, as the station prepared for another possible assault, Mira and Aaron walked once more by the viewing window. The stars seemed closer, as if leaning in to listen. Aaron asked, "Do you think it will last? This hope we are building?" Mira answered, her voice calm. "Hope is like a seed. It begins small, fragile, and unseen, but once planted, it grows roots deeper than fear. What you gave me on your world was a seed. Now it grows across galaxies." Aaron nodded slowly. "Then I will tend it as I would tend the fields, no matter how long it takes." Mira looked at him with quiet warmth. "And I will walk beside you." The sound of footsteps broke their silence. Commander Hale entered again, this time with a rare smile. "Reports just came in. The Valora fleet is fracturing. Some of their ships are flying toward us, not as enemies, but as allies. Princess Farmer, your voices have turned soldiers into friends." For the first time since her exile, Mira let out a deep breath of relief. Then the dawn has begun. Aaron stood taller than ever before. He no longer saw himself as only a farmer. He was part of something greater, a turning of ages. Humanity had shown its strength, not with greater firepower, but with the courage to protect, the will to speak, and the kindness to shelter a stranger. As the stars watched in silence, a new story began. A story where humans were no longer seen as weak, but as guardians of hope. A story where a little alien princess and a simple farmer stood together and changed the course of two worlds. And though many trials still lay ahead, both knew that the path forward was no longer one of fear, but of light. The guards who once stood still in duty now stood still in respect. And across the galaxy, countless others began to do the same. The dawn of a new era had truly arrived.